Pascal. You are now, rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high, cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold up, we just saying hi. Five somebody, rise up. Weekdays, catch us live, somebody. Let's go.
Good afternoon. Good evening and good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Pascal Show. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Hope this show finds you in great spirits, because another day above the dirt is always a blessing. Let's not forget that, y'all. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Thursday. We are almost at the end of the work week. I know a lot of us are very excited about that. I don't know about y'all, but I am. I is very excited. It's almost over. It's been one hell of a week, y'all. I'm sure it's been one hell of a week for you guys, too. But we got some things that have been going on. Didn't get a chance to break it when it was breaking, but this is something that's been going on. Well, this is all sad. Very, very sad, but we got to talk about it. There's a lot to discuss. There's a lot to get into. So we're going to get into this, okay? So do me a solid, all right? Please do me a solid. Hit that like button down below. Crush it, do what it do. Hit that reaction button if you're watching on these other platforms. If you are watching on these other platforms like Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, Twitch, Kick, I'm on all them mugs. So make sure you are following, hitting that follow button on that channel, on those platforms. But of course, do not forget to subscribe right here on my YouTube channel. Please and thank you. Subscribe. Make sure you do that. Hit that notification bell, set it to all so you know whenever I go live, whenever I upload, because honestly, it is random. I'm just gonna be real. It is random. So make sure you do that. Okay? Hit that join button down below. Consider becoming a member of the family by simply hitting that join button down below. That would be greatly appreciated as well. Okay? Please and thank you. Just do that. Do that solid. Do that thing. All right, support the channel. You can even support even further by checking out my Patreon, which is in the lower ticker right there, going across the screen, nice and slow like, so you don't miss not one letter. Go check it out, patreon.com/The Pascal Show. Or you can also check out my merch. Yeah, I got merch, custom made merch, everyone. Go check out pascalmerch.com. Like I said, like I always say, we got some really great stuff over there. I mean, we've got t-shirts that have sayings on them, but then we also have custom-made tie-dye t-shirts, hoodies, etc. You name it, go check it out. You name it, go check it out. pascalmerch.com. Okay, guys. All right, we have got to get into this conversation. Some crazy stuff has been going on, and we are a little behind, okay, because they're still live. You know, they're still streaming live outside of the home of this former lieutenant governor, Virginia Lieutenant Governor Fairfax, Justin Fairfax. Now, here's the thing. This is absolutely devastating. And from what we're understanding, this all has been transpiring due to some sort of messy divorce that's been going on. And now, of course, we have the former lieutenant governor of Virginia taking the life of his wife and then turning the weapon onto himself. Now, I need to make this abundantly clear real quick before we get into everything, all right? First off, let me remind you, you are not alone. If you are going through some tough times, if you're feeling any type of way, if you feel like you're alone, you can always call the hotline. 988 is the number. If you're ever thinking that you can't discuss certain things with friends or family members, there is a hotline. There is a phone number that you can call. There is someone that you can that will listen to you, that you can speak to. Again, you are not alone. I have to emphasize that because I know that we're all going through some trying times, okay? Everything is a trigger warning, real talk, everything. right now that we're living through, like Medusa just said, is straight up a full-on trigger warning. Gas prices, the war going on overseas, whether or not we are, going through a ceasefire or not. I mean, a lot of it is triggering. And one thing that can really trigger some people is going through a messy divorce. Let's be real. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. That says a lot. I mean, just the idea of divorce, just the word itself should send shivers down and up your doggone spine. Am I right or am I right? And I know some of y'all have gone through that thing, or just going through a really messy breakup, period. Okay, where, everything is split up, even your friends are split up and all that. It gets very, very crazy and very tough because suddenly the friends that you used to have, you can't be their friends anymore because, you know how it is. I've seen it. I've witnessed it myself. It can be a wild thing when you're going, I could be like, yo, you friend, ooh, you know what I'm saying? You know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Because when the breakup happens, even in a long-term relationship, that, you guys are just partners or, boyfriend, girlfriend or whatever, girlfriend, boyfriend, however you swing, okay? The breakup can get really tough because once, people are going to side with one side or the other, or they're just going to be getting so overwhelmed by being in the middle that they just want to get as far away from the situation as quickly as possible, right? But nonetheless, breaking up is hard to do. Isn't that a song? Breaking up is hard to do. You know what I mean? So I just have to say, if you are going through that, a breakup, you will get on the other side of it. This too shall pass. It is very tough. Sometimes it's petty. Sometimes it's really, really difficult. Depending on how you guys broke up or the reason why you guys are splitting up, things can get very messy and get very petty and get very trifling. Okay. And if you're the one who made the big mistake, let me just say, you'll get through it. But this is the reason why I say, if you feel like you can't speak to your friends or family, there are hotlines and phone numbers you can call to speak to somebody who could just be a listening ear and maybe give you some candid advice during that tough and difficult time. This right here, what we're about to talk about, what we're about to see and discuss, and why there's all this police tape around this, I'm sure once was a beautiful and loving home filled with happy faces and happy lives, is now ending in tragedy. This is not how you end things. This is not the answer to your problems. Let me just make that abundantly clear. Okay? Wake up. It's just a full-on warning. Heads up, everybody. This is not how you do things. Just so you know. And also, let me just remind you one other thing that I think people forget so much. And I'm gonna say this because I just feel it in my spirit. Okay. And no, I'm not sitting there going, I feel it in my spirit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. No. I'm just saying I feel it in my spirit to say this out loud. Life is so freaking dope. Life is so good. Yes, I get it. You might make mistakes. People make mistakes. We're human. But it's really dope when you get to see the other side of that hard time that you went through. And you go, wow, I got through that. I went through that messy divorce and I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still strong. I'm still good. I still got my kids. I'm still loved by other people. I just want to remind you that. I'm sorry. I just feel it in my spirit to say this. I feel in my soul to say that out loud really quick before we venture into this stuff. Some people think it's the end of the world going through a divorce. Yes, it feels like it is at that time when you're going through those tough waters. Okay, those rough, tough waters, but you can get through it on the other side. Once you get through on the other side, hey, it's over. You got it done. You can live your life. You just got to hold on for those 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds. Imagine if you held on for 5 more seconds. What if you did? Because I know somebody out here needs to hear it. Somebody out here needs to hear what I'm saying right now. What if you held on for 5 more seconds? 5 more seconds. You realize that, a moment like this, which is still terrible, is 5 seconds of your life. If you are blessed enough to live long and be old, living in a nursing home, having some nurse giving you sponge baths and all that, and you had a full-on life, you realize that one moment is only going to be a blip in your life. Push through. Persevere. And imagine and constantly ask yourself, what if? What if I just hold on for 5 more minutes? 5 more seconds, I'm sorry. 5 more seconds. What if I see through this? What if I see the end of this actual terrible experience I'm going through, and I persevere and I get through it? What if? That what if is really, really, really amazing. Like I said, it's a blink of an eye in your entire massive life. So don't do this. Don't do what we're about to talk about here. Life is so damn precious and life is so dope that I think we all deserve to see what gifts and what beauty is about to bestow upon you if you just hold on for 5 more seconds. That's it. 5 seconds. So we got to talk about this. And, this is something that is terrible. Absolutely terrible. Former Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax. Children were inside the home during this. I can't even say that out loud. Okay? His own teenage son had to call 911 because of what was bestowed upon him when he walked into the basement, allegedly, and his parents' bedroom, calling 911 because of this terrible situation that happened, because they're saying a messy divorce was underway. And this man, who happened to be former lieutenant governor of Virginia, decided to do this unthinkable thing. Yeah, Lord have mercy indeed. Lord have mercy indeed. This is a real thing. Okay? Real thing that just happened. And now we got to talk about it. But this should also be a learning or like a wake-up call for all y'all who are going through a sticky time. We all have our bad days. We all have our bad months. We all have our moments when we don't know if we're going to get through the day. But guess what? A lot of y'all that are going through that bad time right now, you woke up this morning. This is the reason why I say every day is a blessing. Every day above the dirt is always a blessing. Always remember that. Even when the times are tough. In fact, you should embrace that even more because you're still here. So let's get into this. All right. Because I already know some of these guys who are super political, these commentators are going to talk about, and we're going to talk about his stuff because he had a very, very, what's the word? Colorful past. Serious allegations being thrown in his face. And probably one of the main reasons why they are going through a divorce or were going through a divorce because of these allegations, which are not great. Also, there are commentators and political pundits that are going in on the fact that he was also very heavy on gun control. And lo and behold, he's the one holding the pew-pew and taking the life of his wife. And then he turned that same weapon onto himself. Yeah, guys. Same dude who's sitting out here going, we need to protect our children and protect our people from these weapons and so on and so forth. He's also the same guy who walked into his home to his wife, unloaded on her, for lack of a better term, and then went upstairs, from what I've gathered, and then unloaded on himself. You can't make this stuff up. So let's take a look at this. New details surrounding the MS, we'll just say that, okay, involving former Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax and his estranged wife, Serena, I think it's Serena Fairfax, have come to light. So Fairfax County Police shared that these two, their couple's children, or teenage children, son Cameron and daughter Carrie's, were at the home, all right, at the time of the actual incident, which occurred earlier today. So Cameron, a high school basketball player, called 911 to alert the authorities that his dad had pulled the trigger and took the life of his mother. It's unclear whether Justin had taken his own life by the time the son called the authorities. There wasn't a pause. There was never a moment where someone was holed up in a room. This is what Fairfax County Police Chief Davis said in a press conference, which we're going to be watching here in just a little bit. All right. It happened pretty spontaneously. Now, I think that there's something more to this, but we're going to talk about that. Okay. I think that there's a history. There's most definitely a history of DV in this household. That's what I truly believe. Okay. That's what I truly, truly believe. After hearing this story, after hearing how things have transpired, to me, this gives me the vibe that something really, 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 really bad has been happening in this home for a very long time. That there has been violence introduced into that household for a while. Okay, so both children were at home at the time of this MS. Police shared with Chief Davis, adding, our main concern is for their well-being right now. They are interacting with us, and certainly the son was the one who called 911 during a very chaotic situation. I can only imagine. Police shared that Justin pulled the trigger on his wife several times before moving into a bedroom in the house and doing it to himself. Okay. The estranged couple who had been married for 19 years were going through a divorce proceedings at the time of this actual incident. So there was a time when they were happy. There was a time when they were in love, so much that they had children. They sired children together. And then now he walked into that house, unloaded on her, and then did what he did to himself as well. We know that recently Mr. Fairfax was served some type of paperwork indicating when he was next scheduled to appear in court for the ongoing divorce proceedings. This is what the chief shared. That is something that we're looking at as something that may have led to whatever happened last night that led to the unaliving of a mother and a wife. And of course, him doing what he did to himself. Justin Fairfax served as lieutenant governor of Virginia from 2018 to 2022. He went on to continue his role as an attorney after his term. His wife was a dentist, according to Chief Davis. Sorry. I do know that the family was going through seemingly a very tough time with the separation, with the divorce, etc. I can only imagine the stress that the parents felt, the kids felt, and other family members as well. He was cited in 2026 in January in an incident in which police were called to the Fairfax home, saying that wasn't resolved without any formal charges. So on Thursday morning, there was an outpouring of shock and support of the Fairfax family. The former Virginia governor, Northam, said in a statement, "Pam and I are devastated by the heartbreaking news. I had the privilege of getting to know the Fairfaxes while our families served together. We are praying for Cameron, Carrie's, and the entire Fairfax family during this incredibly difficult time." Okay. And of course, there's been other people making statements, speaking out loud about all this. And I got to be honest, this is all very shocking information that still, I know for a fact, we're all still trying to understand what the heck happened here and why this went down. You want to know a theory I have, though? I got a theory. My theory is this, y'all. My theory is that when she passed over the paperwork to him, my theory, I don't have any proof of this, but this is just what I feel is what got him over the edge. I'm thinking she wanted full custody over the children. That's what I truly think. I think that paperwork was sent to him, given the fact that there's other things that we're going to be talking about, especially with these allegations that were put on him, and she may believe them. She may believe those allegations, which we are going to get into in just a second. But my thought is maybe she wanted full custody. And yeah, maybe Cray Design, maybe a whole lot of monies. But one thing that's going to get the person that you're trying to divorce from really mad is when you say, I want full custody. I don't want you to have the custody of the children. I've seen so many. You have no idea how many people I've known that have gone through divorces and all that. And one thing is for sure. And of course, yeah, I get it. And money. But at the same time, one thing that's really going to get people really over the edge is when you say, I don't want you to have custody of the kids at all. You get to see them maybe once a month, and it's going to be on my say. That definitely sends people over the edge. I don't think it's only just about money. It could be it could have built up to that. You see what I'm saying? At first it was like, I want half, more than half, I supported you during your time and blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? You rose up to where you were as, the former lieutenant governor of Virginia. I helped support that. I did all this stuff. I want more than half. And he's like, girl, no, you ain't going to get more than half. Are you out your mind? And then she said, oh, no, I want the kids too. Diggity damn. That's going to make people very angry. I'm telling you right now. You see what I'm saying? That gets people mad. And yeah, ego hurt and all that. And maybe that's what pushed him over the edge. I don't know. Or it could have been more than that. She could have moved on. And she's like, I want you to sign them papers. You know what I'm saying? Because she's moved on. That could also be it too. But like I said, I don't know. But I do truly think, in my heart of hearts, I feel that there has been some sort of violence introduced into this relationship for a long time. Because it just seems so strange. Somebody who doesn't, he just keeps his hands to himself. He's not a violent individual. Suddenly just walks into his home, the house and home that he had built alongside his partner, for him to walk in and unload on her out of nowhere. Now, let me just say this too. There are stories like that too. Let's not get it twisted. There are stories out there like that too, where there are some people who there's no violence at all. Just good people, good guy, that kind of thing. And then suddenly out of nowhere, he snaps out of nowhere and brakaka. Or the wife, right? Totally fine. Everything's cool. Very cool, calm, and collected, wonderful, caring wife. Then suddenly something happens and she just snaps. Those things do happen, okay? But something about this situation makes me feel like there was some sort of DV of some kind inside this home. I could be wrong. We'll find out. But let's continue. Let's take a listen to some of this news.
Now, we're following breaking news. Police are investigating an apparent murder-suicide at the home of former Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax. Now, according to police, Fairfax shot his wife several times in the basement of their home. He then went to the bedroom and shot and killed himself. CBS News Crime and Safety Unit Anna Schechter joins us now on the phone. So, Anna, this is a heavy story. What are we learning about the investigation?
Well, police have been aware that there were ongoing domestic issues in the house. In fact, I learned this morning that he, former Lieutenant Governor, had called police in January and alleged that he was assaulted by his wife. Police investigated and found those allegations to be untrue. They looked at security cameras in and around the home. So they...
Hold on. And they put in the wrong, what is this? This is not, Fairfax didn't turn into a white man on a dinghy. We all know who this guy is, so they got the wrong person in this footage. Okay, but you heard that, right? He alleged that she attacked him. That was, just so you know, that was Brian Hooker. Okay, they got the wrong footage in there. Yeah, wrong pick, y'all. Wrong pick. Okay, wrong area. Definitely wrong case. That right there, that ish right here, that be Brian Hooker. And by the way, just want to let you guys know that mother lover, I know it's a little bit of a left turn, but I'm going to let you know this dude right here got released from being held up by police. Lynette Hooker is still out there, nowhere to be found. He did that interview for like 3 whole minutes. Remember that 3-minute interview? And he said, I'm never going to stop looking for her. I guess I won't stop looking for her. Right? And then he jumped on a mother-loving plane and he flew away from the Bahamas. That is real talk. That's a real story. We'll talk about that some other time. But that really just happened yesterday. He said, I won't stop looking for her because I love her. And he's doing all this crocodile tears thing. And then he left. He gone, guys. He's gone. He left the Bahamas after doing an interview saying that he's not going to stop looking for her. He said he can't quit her, yet he did. Okay, I just want to make sure you know that. He said, I can't quit you, and then he left. I just want to make sure y'all let that soak all the way down to your plums. And you don't think he did something? He kicked rocks, y'all. I digress. Back over to Fairfax, though. There's been a lot of men alleged of doing bad things. You realize that there's been an interesting theme in the month of April so far, okay, of men being alleged of doing very, very bad things. Man, Chill the F out. Can we? Can we just chill? Can we chill? Can we stop unaliving our spouses and our wives, or being alleged of unaliving our spouses and our wives and our partners? Can we chill the F out? Please and thank you. Okay? I'm Pascal. I approve this message. Damn. Okay? Dude gone. That guy's gone. Now back over to Fairfax. Okay, Justin Fairfax. He alleged that his wife put her hands on him, only to find out through footage he's the one who put his hands on her. Remember what I just said a second ago, where I had a feeling that there was DV in the family or in the relationship? Yeah, that be right there. Let me just roll that back a little bit so you guys can hear that one more time. So soaks all the way down to your plums. Okay, let's continue.
So Anna, this is a heavy story. What are we learning about the investigation?
Well, police have been aware that there were ongoing domestic issues in the house. In fact, I learned this morning that he, former lieutenant governor, had called police in January and alleged that he was assaulted by his wife. Police investigated and found those allegations to be untrue. They looked at security cameras in and around the home. So they were aware of this. She had filed for divorce over the summer of 2025. And this was a very messy divorce. That is according to the police chief, who just held a briefing right outside their home. Investigators were working overnight photographing the basement. He shot her multiple times there before running up to the primary bedroom upstairs. And as you mentioned in the intro, both of their teenage children were home. The boy is a little bit older than the girl. He called 911. At first, he believed his mother had been stabbed, and he didn't know where his father was, and he called 911, and they figured out the chain of events. Once they got there, found the bullet casings near her body, and then found him upstairs. Both were pronounced dead in the early hours just before 1 a.m.
This is absolutely insane, okay? So you got a guy, all right, I don't care what side of the political aisle he's on. It doesn't matter. Evil is evil. And here's the thing. He straight up lied, y'all. He straight up lied. He said, hey, I didn't touch her. She touched me. And she had cameras apparently hidden inside the home. Hold on. Come here. Why do you think? Hold on. Why do you think she had cameras in the house to capture that moment? Think for a second. Why would she have cameras set up without him knowing inside the house? Yeah, it's because there was a history of DV in that mother-loving house. Exactly. Why we whispering, Trace? Because I felt like it, baby. Why are we whispering? Because I felt like it, baby. Because I like to whisper from time to time to make sure y'all listening. Okay? It's my show. It's my show. So again, like I said, why would she have cameras in the house without him knowing? Because he's probably a really good liar. Isn't that safe to say? Oh, and like I said, we're going to be looking at these allegations here in just a little bit, and the allegations aren't great. Like I said, doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you stand on. A liar's a liar, evil's still evil, and this dude, yeah, he was covert like a mother lover. This guy was diabolical. And now when you hear stuff like that, where he said, no, she put her hands on me. And then she was like, oh, you think I did? Here's an SD card of all that moment, just so you can see for yourself. He put his hands on me. Doesn't that make you wonder if all the other allegations that were put out here about him, doesn't that make you wonder if those things are actually true? Like I said, I'm just asking for a friend. instantly I'm like, oh, okay, if he lied like about that, and instead of being a man and being adult and just being an adult and taking accountability for the wrongdoings that he did, he decided to try to put that on his wife instead of himself. So all these other allegations that are out here does make you wonder, is he just a full bold-faced liar? Did he really do all those other things that he's been alleged of doing as well? Things to think about, right? As we continue. Let's get through this.
And so you mentioned the domestic violence, the history of domestic violence, and any other details you can provide with regards to that, how long that history lasted?
Well, it's interesting. He had been accused previously years ago, back in 2017, 18, 19 timeframe, and CBS News actually reported on sexual assault allegations against him, which he always denied. He was never charged or convicted of anything. But there were allegations out there about him years ago, going back a decade. And the domestic dispute issues police became aware of just in the last 6 months to a year. But they didn't have a long history looking at that, but they were aware of the allegations against him when he was lieutenant governor. So there's a lot to unpack here, and we are out to sources. Our Ed O'Keefe actually reported on those allegations several years ago. So the police chief, Davis, when he spoke this morning, he said this is a very messy situation. That's a quote, and there's a lot going on. And so this is going to be an ongoing probe. Local police are there. That's the Fairfax County Police Department. Now, of course, he is deceased. She is deceased. This is a family crisis. There are victims support team within that police department that are supporting the children now. Other family members are coming together to support those two teenage children. Of course, that's first and foremost. But police and investigators are also going to take a look at allegations against him from the past, given what has now happened, because I think there should be renewed scrutiny on those past allegations against him.
Abso-freaking-lutely. I mean, you got a situation where you're seeing it all transpire, everything kind of unfold as you start to hear more information, basically him lying, being caught in a lie. And then later on, flash forward, a little under a year later, he's taking the life of his wife. And then, of course, doing this unthinkable thing as well, doing this unthinkable thing to her and then doing the unthinkable to himself as well. So again, you can see clear as day that there is a history of violence. Okay? I don't know why I said it like that, but a history of violence for sure. But let's take a look at some information about these allegations that came out. And by the way, what's crazy is that these allegations happened and he still became lieutenant governor of Virginia. This wasn't stopping him. He still was serving his state. He still was an elected official. He still had a position of power, even after all of these allegations came out. So this is absolutely insane. All right. So in early February 2019, Big League Politics reported that Fairfax had been accused by Tyson, we'll just use her last name, an associate professor at Scripps College and a fellow at Stanford University of SA at a hotel in 2004 at the DNC in Boston. Tyson said she had suppressed memories of the event, but began telling close friends about it when she saw pictures of Fairfax running for lieutenant governor in 2017. Tyson had first approached the Washington Post with her allegation after Fairfax won the election in November of 2017. But the Post said that it decided not to run the story because it could not corroborate the story or find similar incidents in Fairfax past. Tyson also approached a friend, Virginia Congressman Bobby Scott, with the allegation around the same time. But Scott declined to act on it. Yo. That's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. According to the New York Times, at least 6 friends of Tyson reported that she had told them about the alleged attack between 2017 and 2019, but she had no real-time corroboration from 2004. So, of course, Fairfax denied the accusation, saying his encounter with Tyson was consensual, and the timing of the reports was intended to smear him. Beginning February 1st, after the discovery of a racist photo on Ralph Northam's medical school yearbook, there had been whispered calls for Northam to actually resign and let Fairfax become governor of Virginia. Fairfax also insinuated that supporters of Northam or someone connected with Richmond Mayor Stoney, a potential political rival, since both were speculated as possible Democratic candidates for governor in 2021, may have been behind the allegation going public. So apparently, he's thinking that maybe a rival stepped forward and said, hey, you got this dirt? Yeah, we need you to get this out, okay, so we can tarnish his name as best as possible. So Tyson released a statement detailing her allegations, saying the encounter started as consensual kissing, but ended with Fairfax forcing her to do that thing on him, okay? Tyson said she is a Democrat with no political agenda and felt compelled to release the statement because Fairfax has tried, quote unquote, tried to brand me as a liar to a national audience in service of his political ambitions and has threatened litigation. In response, Fairfax issued a statement saying, quote unquote, I wish her no harm or humiliation, nor do I seek to denigrate her or diminish her voice. But I cannot agree with a description of events that I know is not true. NBC News reported that Fairfax used a misogynistic profanity to describe Tyson in a public staff meeting after the allegation came out, according to 2 sources in the meeting. Okay, interesting. Fairfax chief of staff and policy director conceded that he did use profanity, but denied it was towards his accuser, and Fairfax demanded NBC and its reporters retract their reporting. After they broke the story, Fairfax hired the same legal team that represented Brett Kavanaugh during his confirmation process, while Tyson hired the same legal team that represented Kavanaugh's accuser, Christine Blasey Ford. So Virginia Congresswoman Wexton texted her support for Tyson. So on February 8th, 2019, a second woman, Meredith Watson, came forward with essay allegations as well against Fairfax, alleging that he arred her in a quote-unquote premeditated and aggressive attack in 2000 when both were undergraduate students at Duke University. A college friend of Watson stated she remembered Watson telling her about this attack the day after it actually happened. Watson said she had been previously arred by a Duke basketball player, later identified as Corey Maggette, and brought the matter to the dean, but was discouraged from pursuing the matter. Watson's attorney said that Watson had one interaction with Fairfax after the alleged attack outside a campus party, during which Watson said, "Why did you do it?" And reported Fairfax replied, "I knew that because of what happened to you last year, you'd be too afraid to say anything." Whoa. That's insane. Wow. Watson's attorney said this showed Fairfax, quote unquote, used the prior R of his friend, in quotations, against her when he chose to R her in a premeditated way. Fairfax denied the second accusation, issuing a statement saying, "I deny the latest unsubstantiated allegation. It is demonstrably false. I have never forced myself on anyone ever. I demand a full investigation into these unsubstantiated and false allegations. Such investigation will confirm my account because I'm telling the truth. I will clear my good name, and I have nothing to hide." That sounds like something that we heard recently, haven't we? Melania. But anyway, she has a good name and she has nothing to hide. Moving on. "I have passed 2 full field background checks by the FBI and run for office in 2 highly contested elections with nothing like this being raised before. It is obvious that a vicious and coordinated smear campaign is being orchestrated against me. I will not resign." The second allegation caused a wave of calls for him to actually resign from politicians, including many Democrats in the General Assembly. Most of Virginia's Democratic members of Congress, including the former governor, multiple nationally prominent Democrats, including several running for president in 2020, they all were basically saying, "Yo, you need to step down, homie." Okay. Another Democrat, also a delegate, also a Democrat, announced that he would introduce articles of impeachment against Fairfax within 3 days if Fairfax had not resigned. The Virginia legislature's Black Caucus asked Fairfax to resign. Hope, the delegate, Patrick Hope, backed off his plan to introduce articles of impeachment after fellow House Democrats said they were not prepared for the process, saying, quote unquote, additional conversations were needed. Wow. Tyson's lawyer has reached out to Suffolk County, Massachusetts district attorney to schedule a meeting to detail her allegations, while a spokesperson for Fairfax said he would be willing to cooperate with any probe and to, quote unquote, explore all options with regard to filing his own criminal complaint in response to the filing of a false criminal complaint against him. After these allegations became public, he was placed on leave from his law firm, asked to step down from the Board of Visitors at the Duke University's Sanford School of Public Policy, and left his post as chairman of the Democratic Lieutenant Governors Association. 4 of his staffers, 2 from his state office and 2 from his political action committee, quit in the wake of these allegations, though Fairfax himself remained in office until the end of his term. Wow. Wow. Let me just say, ain't that crazy? You have people stepping forward, serious allegations coming out, saying that he's a bad man. He done some really, really bad things, and he still was able to stay and ride out the rest of his term. Even when they were saying articles of impeachment were about to be filed, they were asking him to decline, etc. What is going on here? Why were they protecting this guy? Now, again, just because he did what he did today does not automatically mean that he did these things in 2004 and in early 2000. But at the same time, there should be an investigation into those things. Let's just be real. If he had a history of violence and it goes all the way back to 2000 to 2004, it's a damn shame that he never really got justice fully served to him. But here's the other thing, too. It does make you think maybe that's the reason why wifey wanted to be out. Those allegations, maybe they were just lingering too much on her. I don't know. he left her, or they were splitting up for a very solid reason. And obviously, so much that he was lying on her, so much that she had to have cameras set up indiscreetly without his knowledge to prove that she is not the violent one, that he is. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. But we got the press conference, so we got to take a look at this too, okay? Because we got some updates in regards to this, and they're giving us details in this. So let's take a listen. Yikes. So they were living in like a War of the Roses. You heard that? Remember that movie? It's an old movie. But they were literally coexisting under the same roof, yet they were split up. That is wild. That is wild. And yes, guys, just a quick reminder, she is a dentist. His wife was a dentist. Just so you know, because I know some people were asking, was she a dentist? Yes, she definitely was a dentist. This is insane. Very, very insane. Hold on. Sorry. Yeah, very, very dark comedy movie. Yes, the War of the Roses. Pretty sad. Messed up and sad movie. Real talk. But yeah, he was lying. He was lying on her. What for? I don't know. Okay. So yeah, pretty insane stuff. But let's continue on. I mean, let's be real. And like I said before, the divorce is ugly. Divorce is tough. Divorce is scary, to be completely honest. And this is just very, very sad, because this is something that shouldn't be happening, So it is very, very disheartening to hear all of this. So, my thoughts and prayers go out to the family, to the kids, because now the kids don't have their parents. None of them. Because of this unthinkable and tragic situation. So, of course, if there's more details about it, we'll talk about it. But like I said, what's frustrating about this is that there are a lot of people that are taking this and kind of running with it, a lot of people in the political realm are trying to take this and trying to be like, oh, it's so fun. Yes, it is very interesting that somebody who is, an advocate for gun control to actually do what he ended up doing. But at the same time, this is still a tragedy, it's still terrible. But then you look at the situation with Swalwell, and then you look at this situation as well. This is not a good look, period. But I know that there are going to be certain parties and certain people in certain parties that are going to try to use this in a way to try to use it for some sort of political gain. Let's not forget we're, walking into midterms here very, very soon. There's a lot on the line. You have two individuals that just did, one's being alleged of doing some really egregious, disturbing things. And you have somebody who just did a shockingly devastating thing, right? And there are some people that are just using it as an opportunity to spin it into something more sinister. Like I said, for their own political gain. All I can say is pray for the victims. Pray for the children. And pray that there aren't other politicians that have done or are doing bad things like that. And that we are actually, we're actually electing the right people for the job. You see what I'm saying? Well, we got to take a little bit of a left turn, guys. We got a left or right turn. It doesn't matter. Okay. But we got some updates here. This is also something that's very, very interesting. Apparently, Israel and Lebanon have now agreed on a ceasefire, a 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. This is very, very interesting information. We've got to take a look at it. Let's rock and roll.
News. President Trump says Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire. The president says it will go into effect today at 5 p.m. Eastern, and he says the agreement is the result of, quote, excellent conversations with the leaders of both countries. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is threatening to drop more bombs on critical Iranian infrastructure if Iran refuses to come to the negotiating table. Let's bring in foreign correspondent Marcus Moore in Beirut and ABC's Olivia Rubin in Washington with more. So, Marcus, what else are you hearing about this ceasefire?
Well, Diane, we've just seen a statement from Lebanon's prime minister welcoming the announcement from President Trump saying that there will be a ceasefire that goes into effect at 5 o'clock Eastern, which would be midnight here in Beirut. And so this word just getting out and certainly will come as encouraging news, not only to leaders here in the region, of course, here in Lebanon, but the nearly 1.2 million people who've been forced from their homes as a result of the fighting in the south. Now, there are a number of questions about how this ceasefire, once it goes into effect, how it will play. And I say that because there is a great deal of distrust among many here in Lebanon and across the region who point to previous ceasefires, including the one that was agreed to in November of 2024 between Israel and Hezbollah, and the Israelis continuing to carry out strikes that they say were legitimate and were within the ceasefire agreement, but others have said that those were clear violations of the ceasefire. So as we're getting word of this new ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, it remains to be seen exactly when it goes into effect. It's set to be midnight here local time, and then we'll have to see what happens after that. But this, no doubt, Diane, is encouraging news to many, and it's important because, as we've heard from Iran, they have said that in terms of that war, that there can only be an agreement there once there's a ceasefire here in Lebanon, Diane.
Olivia, any more details on how this came together?
There's not, Diane, but that's going to be super interesting to hear because we know that President Trump earlier today said that they were going to be speaking directly Israel and Lebanon. He said it would be the first time in over 3 decades that they were doing so. But if you look at his post on social media, on Truth Social, the president said that he had the talks with both sides. So it's going to be interesting to see how those came together. But even beyond that, Diane, the president also posting on his social media platform that he's invited both Prime Minister Netanyahu and the president of Lebanon to come to the White House together, which certainly would be a first in many decades, he says, though there's no specific time or date for that. But I think in terms of the broader context of this war, Marcus just hit on a key point here, which is what does it mean for a potential long-term peace plan between the United States and Iran beyond this ceasefire? We know that a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon was critical for Iran. They said that they considered it to be part of the deal in the first place. That was a bit of a sticking point there when the United States said that, no, that wasn't part of the deal. And since then, we have seen sort of this increased effort by the United States government to broker this deal between Israel and Lebanon, including with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who held those diplomatic talks earlier. Now President Trump stepping in, saying he spoke to both of the leaders. So certainly seems to be in the Trump administration's eyes that this is a critical piece, potentially towards a broader deal, Diane.
Marcus, Israel has been intensifying strikes and moving deeper into southern Lebanon. So how quickly is that expected to stop?
Well, if the ceasefire does go into effect at 12 o'clock at midnight tonight, it should happen pretty quickly. That is the hope at the least. But as we've seen in previous moments where a ceasefire has been imminent, We have seen an intensification of strikes, a kind of last blow, if you will, or last lick before the guns and the bombs fall silent. And so we'll be watching very closely what happens there. And the other anticipation, Diane, is that once word gets out that the ceasefire is in place, we would anticipate seeing a number of people trying to go back to their homes in the South. And what's notable about that is a number of people don't know what's left of their homes. As we have heard, entire villages have been destroyed, completely destroyed. And so many people will be returning to absolutely nothing. And that then leads you to the next question of the humanitarian situation that's been unfolding here. Lebanon is a country that's been enduring difficult economic days, and that has impacted the government's ability to respond to the humanitarian situation. And so that is the next part of this to watch, aside from the military aspect, is the humanitarian part of this, and we'll watch and see how all of that plays out. It will be a very long road ahead for people who've left their homes.
What do you think? What do you think about this? Do you think that this is true? That this ceasefire is actually, in full effect? Or no? Something about this feels, well, I'm in the category of I'll believe it when I see it. Does that make sense? Like, I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah, Catherine, like, I'm not entirely 110% sure, how I feel about this. Here it is. Let me be real. I mean, let's be real. If this ceasefire is actually happening, and if it really is going to happen for 10 days, then this is fantastic. Okay? This is absolutely fantastic news. Let's look on the bright side of life for just a second. This would be fantastic news, because then that means we're getting a little bit closer to getting things to kind of slow down or calm down, and less people getting hurt, less people losing their lives, and all that. But at the same time, there is a part of me that's still kind of side-eyeing the hell out of Netanyahu. Am I the only one who feels that? There's just that part of me that I'm just like, I'm side-eyeing it. But, like I said, maybe this is real. And maybe Israel is going to chill out. And there won't be any more. Maybe, you know what I mean? And maybe the chaos is going to subside and things aren't going to get worse. But I don't know. I do find it very interesting that this ceasefire has been announced by Trump. And I'm still waiting. I'm still trying to find the information. Like, I would like to hear from Netanyahu himself. You see what I'm saying? Like, I want to hear Netanyahu say out loud, yeah, we doing a ceasefire. That's what I want to hear. But, we hear one thing from Trump a lot of times, and then the other side will say something completely different. And that's why I'm like, I really want to hear what Bibi has to say about all this, because there's something about this that feels like he might come out and be like, we're not done. We never said yes to a ceasefire, so on and so forth. We'll turn it back on if we want to, whenever we want to. You see what I'm saying? So there is something about this that is a little bit strange, and I am kind of curious about that, right? I think all of us are kind of curious about that, but if it is true, then that's fantastic news. Let it be, and let peace ring and reign supreme, right? But something about this feels a little bit off. But we'll see. We'll see about that, right? Hold on. Hold on one second. Yeah. We got to talk about this because it's just bothering me, and we definitely need to talk about it because it just seems so strange to me. Should be strange to you. We're jumping into the true crime realm just for a hot minute. This is not going to be a super long show. I wanted to, just kind of give you guys some updates and talk to you guys about that breaking news piece. And, I may be on a little bit later on this evening to talk about more, or if there's something else that does break, then we'll hop on and talk about it too. But we got to talk about this Lynette Hooker situation. The Lynette Hooker situation is very strange to me. I don't know about you, but it is a very strange situation. You have a woman that was out in the Bahamas with her husband, named Brian Hooker. They were on their boat. They sail on their boat quite a bit. And suddenly out of nowhere, he's on this boat they are on this dinghy, heading back to their boat. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, as they're on their way back, they get hit with this is according to him, they get hit with a storm, and she gets thrown overboard. Literally. She gets thrown overboard. And so he goes out of his way, of course, to row back to shore, because apparently she had the key to the boat on her person. So she's out in the sea and he doesn't have anything. So all he can do is paddle back to shore. This took him several hours to do so. And then that's when he reported her missing. Now, I just said it a little bit ago because there was a mistake on the news feed that we were watching about the Fairfax murders, where I talked about how this guy did this interview after he was released from police, and he said, "I won't quit looking for my wife." And then he quits. He flees. He kicks rocks, guys, and goes back home, or God knows wherever he went. He leaves the Bahamas nonetheless, after saying he was going to do everything he can to try to find his wife, who he says he believes is still alive. Now, I'm just going to say this out loud. If you are not guilty of a specific crime, the last thing you do is get in a plane and fly away from the place that your wife or your loved one is missing from. Especially after you say, she's still alive and I won't quit looking for her. She is still alive and I won't quit looking for her. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he picks up his stuff and he flies out of the Bahamas. Very strange movement, if you ask me. Now let's keep it a bean. Let's keep it real, okay? I don't know if he has a job. I don't know if they're retired. I don't know anything about that. But one part of me is thinking maybe he went home because he left Bahamas because he has to go to work. Maybe he has to do a job or something like that. But you'd think that the job would be like, yeah, we get it. Your wife is missing. Stay there. Do what you need to do. We will figure something out. You see what I'm saying? We will figure something out. While you go out there and you look for your wife. Do what you need to do. But instead, he just goes back home. Or just packs up his stuff and leaves. Tammy Gill just said his mom is sick. For real? Is that true? His mama is sick? That's the reason? So he is retired. I figured that they were both retired if you're going to be out there in the Bahamas sailing and all that. Sailing, drifting away. You know what I mean? With the yacht rock and everything. You know what I mean? I figured you'd be out. If you're out there, you got the boat and you're constantly going back to the Bahamas. Yeah, you're retired. You're out there enjoying your time. Down in Kokomo, Get here fast and then take it slow. You know, you're doing the yacht rock stuff, right? You retired. Nothing but pina coladas and waves, right? That sounds kind of nice, actually. I'm not going to lie. That kind of sounds kind of nice. But again, if you're sitting there going, I won't quit my wife, and then you quit your wife, tell me you did it without telling me you did it. You feel me? I'm sorry for shooting from the hip, but that, to me, seems a little bit strange. Doesn't it seem a little bit strange to you? Because last I checked, he's the prime suspect. Everybody and their mama's staring at this dude, breathing down his neck and watching every move that he makes. And he decides to leave the Bahamas. That's strange. Now, Inspector just said she slipped off and drowned. Only thing strange as I guess is always true crime speculation. I mean, let's be real. You got some. If she slipped off and she drowned, why is he not out there trying to find her? Why isn't he out there starting a GoFundMe or something of that sort? Why is he not doing interviews every 5 seconds? Why is he not in his boat looking for her in the area that he lost her at? I'm just saying. That just seems strange to me. That's not, but like, the speculation is basically saying like ancient aliens, man, or you know, he and then threw her in the ocean. I haven't said any of that. Not me. I'm going. The actions speak very loud, much louder than his words. He literally said, "I won't quit looking for my wife," and then the very next day he hops on a plane and he flies out. That's a little strange to me, guys, if you ask me. That's just strange. But let's take a look at this. We saw the interview the other day. Literally, it was the day after he was released from being holed up in jail, okay, holed up by police. He had an interview that very next day. He says, "I won't quit looking for my wife." And now, him going.
This morning, Ryan Hooker's attorney confirming he has left the Bahamas just 2 days after vowing to stay and search for his missing wife, Lynette.
You don't think that's weird? You know what? I'll tell you what. Last time I checked, that's weird.
My only focus is to go back to the boat and then hire or beg people to help me go find some areas to search.
Is that what's next for you?
That's what's next for me until my visa runs out.
So you plan on staying in the Bahamas?
Yes, this is where my wife is.
I'm sorry, there's no speculation here, baby. An interviewer just asked him, "You staying here though, right?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm staying until my visa runs out." This mother lover lives here, man. Okay, he enjoying before she went missing, he was enjoying his time. He had no plans on leaving, and now he's gone. And now he's gone. What the hell? But like I said, it's hard to sit here and go, well, he's a good man and we need to give him a chance. These movements right here are movements of a guilty person. That's the vibe it gives. He may not have done anything. He really may not have done anything, but you understand that he's ruining his reputation and he's ruining the possibilities of his innocence by moving in such a suspicious type of manner. He just got interviewed and asked by that reporter, "So you planning on staying here?" And he said, "Yes. And I'm going to do everything I can and see if I can get people to help me find my wife. I'm not leaving until my visa runs out." So his visa ran out the very next day? Huh?
Pledging to not give up on finding her.
My sole focus is finding Lynette. No matter how likely or unlikely that is, this search for Lynette has been interrupted by the investigation. I'm not leaving until I'm told to leave or convinced that it's fruitless.
Ryan reported Lynette missing nearly.
Sorry, I'm going to roll that back. Let's hear that trash again. I'm sorry. This is dumb. Again, if he's innocent, this is not what you do as an innocent person. And you mean to tell me that police were already turning to him and saying, yeah, no, it's fruitless. It's pointless for you to go out there. Sir, go home. It's fruitless and pointless. Come on. You know? That's weird. That's weird.
No matter how likely or unlikely that is, this search for Lynette has been interrupted by the investigation. I'm not leaving until I'm told to leave or convinced that it's fruitless.
Ryan reported Lynette missing nearly 2 weeks ago, telling authorities she fell overboard during rough weather as the couple was riding their dinghy to their sailboat where they lived.
Now, I also want to point something out here, because the one thing I've been a little confused about is that they've been saying that, okay, the key to the boat was missing, or apparently she had it on her person, right? And that he had to row the boat, like this dinghy, all the way back to shore so that he could actually report her missing. Now, I get the part of, okay, first and foremost, I don't sail boats. I don't know anything about boats, but they had a sailboat. Mind you, a sailboat. They allegedly said that it was a very windy, there was a lot of gusty wind, there was a lot of issues with, this is one of the reasons why she went under or got knocked overboard, because of a very vicious weather. So hear me out. And yeah, that's the other thing too, Melissa. Okay. It doesn't make any sense that they would say, there's no phones. You don't have a working radio. You have nothing. That doesn't make any sense either. Right now, let's just talk about this. The dinghy. That's the one thing I'm confused about. Is he saying that he didn't have keys to his boat, the actual boat that we're seeing right here, or he didn't have keys to the dinghy that he was in, the other small 8-foot dinghy that I guess is attached to the boat, to the big boat that they used to row to, go off the boat into, go visit a restaurant or a bar or something of that sort. Something about this doesn't seem to be making any earthly sense. You see what I'm saying? So I'm wondering, is it the key to the actual boat, this boat right here? Or is it the key to the actual dinghy? That's one thing I've been confused about. Because here's the thing. If it's a key to this boat, it has sails. It's a sailboat. It's a sailboat. Sure, it runs off of motors as well, but he could literally put up those sails and have that boat moving in the water. And if he's saying that it was pretty gusty day and there was, a lot of wind and the storm knocked her overboard, that means there's enough air in the atmosphere for him to put up those sails and get that boat moving without him actually getting into the dinghy and literally paddling himself to wherever shore he went to. I'm also hearing that he allegedly rode to the opposite side of this bay area, which took a very long time to row to, rather than rowing to the nearest shore that he was by. So that's weird. So like I said, I just have questions about that. That doesn't make any sense. Okay? That part doesn't make any earthly sense to me. Does it make any sense to you? Now, this is just questions. Like I said, I don't have facts. I'm just asking the questions. Okay? Mind you, I'm just asking the questions. And the question is, does she have the boat? Did she have on her person before she disappeared, before she went overboard, the key to the dinghy or the key to the actual boat. And if it is the key to the actual boat, and regardless, if it was the key to the actual boat or to the dinghy, it still doesn't make any sense because he could literally, if I'm correct, use the sailboat as a mother-loving sailboat. Put up the sails, let that wind push you to where you need to go. Right? So Lady Justice just said, thank you so much, okay, saying that the sailboat is still moored. Okay, so still moored in the lagoon. Keys were to the dinghy. That's strange. So it was keys to the dinghy, but not keys to the actual boat. So he could have literally rowed to the mother-loving boat per Ashley Banfield. That's from Ashley Banfield. Okay. Gone to the boat, the actual sailboat, turned that mother lover on and sailed his ass to where he needed to go. He didn't have to row several hours to the allegedly the other side of the bay to notify police, which makes it seem weird, right? Doesn't that not make any sense to you? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. The Caroline, that's the only thing I can think of. You know what I mean? Because allegedly she was never in possession of the keys. He was. So that's the only thing I can think of. Either, or it's either she had the keys in her pocket for some weird reason, and or she got mad and threw them. Or here's the other part. Or he did something sinister and he had to make up some sort of excuse on why it took him several hours to get to shore. So he just throws the keys to make it seem like they were on her person the entire time to try to cover up something sinister. Because maybe the crime did actually happen on the boat. If there's a crime. Let's just say that too. If there is an actual crime that happened on the boat, then you see what I'm saying? Maybe he's like, well, shoot, I mean, maybe he just wants more time for the boat to, I don't know, maybe something really bad happened on the boat and he tried to clean it up or something of that sort. And he's trying to use that as an excuse. Throw the keys to the boat, to the dinghy or to the boat over into the water. And he's like, oh, it went with her. Or she said, F you, mother lover. And, they were drunk. Okay. And she took those keys and just tossed it. And then he lost himself and then did the unthinkable. Maybe that's possible. Maybe this happened. Or let's be real. Or he's telling the truth. Let's not forget that too. Or he is telling the truth and she threw, and the keys were on her and she fell overboard during this strange weather that came through and knocked her overboard. That's the only, that's what's so crazy about this is we can't get the full truth about what's going on here. And one thing that's not making the situation any better is the fact that this dude straight up kicked rocks and now everybody's side-eyeing the hell out of this dude because he said he wasn't going to stop. He wasn't going to leave until he found her or found the truth about where she is. And now he's gone. Like I said, this is the most insane thing I've seen in a while. Yeah, classic. There's so many maybes in this situation. Again, we could be looking at him and he could literally be an innocent guy. But the fact that he packed up his stuff and has left so abruptly like this, especially after saying he's not going to leave until he finds her, and he's going to try to get people to help him find her, why did he leave? And where is he?
Family, friends, and police records show Brian and Lynette's 25-year relationship was turbulent and even violent at times. Lynette's mother and daughter have had questions about Brian's story.
And have you spoken with the family, with Lynette's mother or daughter, since you've been released from police custody?
No, I have not.
While Brian has left, the U.S. Coast Guard is assisting Bahamian police actively searching for Lynette. Victor.
Yeah. Like I said, something weird is going on here. There is an interview that was done by, I think it was Jesse Weber, that we have to look at, because even so, he's got friends that are out there that are angry as hell right now because of him leaving. And they're going, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you, what's going on, right? So we got to take a look at this too. Hold on, I need to find it, because I had it. There it is.
If you're a suspect in your wife's disappearance and you just told the world your sole focus is finding her, it may not look great to then leave the place where she disappeared, because Brian Hooker today left the Bahamas, where his wife...
This was from last night. Like I said, the last thing you do after you tell the world that you're innocent and you're going to stop at nothing to try to find her is actually packing up your stuff and jumping on a plane and leaving the area. It is the number one telltale sign that you up to no good. We've seen this happen before. We have seen this screams some Sebastian Rogers here. Okay. We've seen it. We've seen it. Okay. We've seen it. This is the last thing you do. And yet he did it. So he's dumb. He's clearly very dumb. Now, guys, I need you guys to do me a solid, okay? Do me a favor. Hit that like button down below. Crush it. Hit that like button down below, please, and thank you. Crush it, crush it, crush it. That would really, really mean the world to me, okay? Can we get it to like 800 likes? That's not too much to ask, all right? So hit that like button down below, please, and thank you. Let us continue.
Wife Lynette vanished. Now, to be clear, his attorney says he flew back to the United States on a commercial flight after learning his mother is seriously ill, and says that he plans to return. But just to put this into context, this comes as the search for Lynette Hooker approaches day 12, and it takes a more serious turn because today the U.S. Coast Guard brought in cadaver dogs to assist in this search. Remember, Lynette disappeared April 4th when Brian reportedly told authorities she fell overboard. She fell overboard from their dinghy in rough seas. Now, he was arrested. He was released Monday night after Bahamian officials said there wasn't enough evidence to file formal charges. He's not been charged with a crime, but police previously said when he was released that he remained a suspect. We know this investigation is ongoing. And here's the other component to all this. After his release, Brian gave multiple interviews saying he would continue searching for his wife. But again, now that appears to be on hold. And tonight, friends of Lynette, they want to know why. Blaine and Marnie Stevenson, who met Lynette and Brian Hooker in 2023, say they have been doing everything they can to help find their friend. They say when Brian Hooker called them and detailed his side of the story with photos and maps, they recorded that 40-minute call.
She basically just bounced off the dinghy in the middle of a little blow, like 20-some knot winds that popped up, and on a half mile maybe trip back to the dinghy, and single thing failed. Every single thing. We weren't wearing life jackets.
The Stevensons say they then called Bahamian police, the U.S. Coast Guard, Crime Stoppers to share what they learned. They got little response, according to them. So what did they do? They went to the public, posted the recorded call, shared photos and text messages with the media, including this message that Lynette apparently sent Marnie in 2024, seemingly sharing her anxiety about being at sea with Brian, writing, "It was real bad. I can't be out there with him." Now, the Stevensons say they are not giving up. They have serious questions about Brian Hooker's actions since her disappearance. And Marnie and Blaine Stevenson join me now live from their boat in St. Martin to give their opinions, their takes on all of this. Thank you both so much for coming on. Blaine, I'm going to start with you. You have a message for Brian Hooker. What is it?
Yeah, Brian, I know, was a former Marine. He was a union leader. He was a staunch person of the people on fighting for the people's right to protest and stand up in any political climate. And I'm asking him to be that person right now. He's been making decisions. He's said that the night was a cascade of failures, and I'm not going to backseat quarterback him on that one. But what I will say is since that moment, he needs to step up and be that person he is. We still don't know what she was wearing that night. When we have people walking beaches and looking for things, we don't know what size shoe she was wearing, what color shoe she was wearing. He's obviously making decisions that gets him detained, or he has a life that's out of control and he needs to go back to California. I'm not going to judge him for those things, but put somebody in charge. Give us the information we need to find Lynette while you can't do it.
So, Marnie, let me talk about that a little bit.
Crazy.
What was your reaction to Brian leaving the Bahamas today? Because if I just said, look, his sole focus is finding Lynette, and then he leaves, people would say, wait, what? But you heard his attorney say his mother's ill, plans to come back. Your reaction?
No. Hold on. No kidding. Hip hop culture. I appreciate the super chat. Yes, you always prepare. I mean, I would figure that you would, but let's be real. If they're used to that lifestyle out there, they're used to going out there and doing things, and they don't think they're strong swimmers. They think this would never happen. Nothing bad would ever happen to me, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? They might be a little bit lackadaisical when it comes to those life vests. You know what I mean? That's possible. That's very, very possible. Especially, you're drinking, you're thinking none of these kind of things would happen to me. I'm just going to jump on the boat and it's a short distance from this place to this place. We're going to be fine. And then all of a sudden, boom, right? So again, maybe, especially when they're known for their drinking, maybe they were drinking and they were lazy about that. Possible. Or not,
Again, kind of like what Blaine touched on in that accidents and emergencies happen. We can't control if something is going on with his mom. But the fact that he is leaving and not giving anybody information about how to continue searching for her, it's disgusting. I can't even put it into words because I just can't fathom that this could even be a response from somebody who says that he'll do anything to find his wife.
Yeah.
But he can't even put somebody else in charge or give anybody any information about what they're looking for.
Solid point right there. Instead of him actually going, hey, okay, buddy, do you mind just leading the fray, leading the force, leading the search while I go? I got this situation with my mom. She's gravely ill. I got to go. Right? He didn't do that. He's packed up his stuff and he left. You're still trying to look for your wife. Your mama's sick. I get that part. You're kind of being pulled in two different directions and you don't know what to do. Least you can do is say, hey, I know that you are helping me try to find my wife. Do you mind just running point for me while I'm gone? And then when I get back, I'll be able to do what I need to do. I'll pick it up from where you left it off. That's it. But he's not doing that. He's picked up his stuff and he left. And that's the other thing too. What about details? What about information so that people can keep an eye out for her, right? He's leaving a lot of information out. Does he not remember what she was wearing before she went overboard? That seems a little bit strange to me, don't you think?
Blaine, what did you make of the several interviews that he did yesterday? Because one argument could be, look, there's been a lot said about him. He's trying to explain the narratives, trying to give his perspective. I see this happen in a number of cases before. What was your view, your perspective on him doing these interviews?
There is no narrative. There is no nothing. It's finding Lynette. If you've got 3 minutes to talk to the news, and I respect the fact he doesn't like talking to the news and he feels like he has to. I don't want to talk to the news right now. You put me in this situation. The truth of the matter is you had 3 minutes to explain to the news what they were looking for.
Bang.
You had 3 minutes to give every detail you could so everybody on that island could help find Lynette. And you spent 3 minutes saying me, 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 me. Let's talk about Lynette. Where, when, why? What was she wearing? Did she have her glasses on? Did it have a band on it? What are we looking for on the beaches, Brian?
Marnie, look, you know, friends, family, they've come forward with these claims of a turbulent marriage, these allegations of Brian being violent towards Lynette. You shared the text messages that Lynette.
I want to remind you, these two are friends of the Hookers. You realize that, right? Or at least we're friends of the Hookers. And now they're on a show being like, yo, you put me on the news, man. I didn't want to be on the news. Now you put me on it to talk about this stuff because you were being sloppy. You could have told us some information. Now I'm on this show. Crazy, right? We are living in some wild times, guys. Wild. But let's continue. Diggity damn.
Apparently sent you in 2024. I mentioned before that indicate this apparent anxiety. You know, obviously, if you want to talk about what he said in the interviews, but also I'm just generally curious, what was your impression of Brian? Did you ever worry for Lynette's safety?
To be perfectly honest, those text messages happened very early on in our friendship. And she didn't go into a whole lot of detail. So at that time, I didn't really press her as also a victim of domestic violence. I know the more you pressure somebody, the more you can shut them down also. So I kind of just let her roll, let her vent. They wound up back together after that. And when we were in like physical contact with them, hanging out in person, when they got back together, they were sober. So I didn't witness anything that was concerning to me at the time. But then once the allegations started coming out, it was like, oh, yeah, remember those text messages from way back in 2024? And it's kind of like, okay, it all makes sense now.
Hey, I also want to make this abundantly clear because I know the people are saying, oh, yeah, you know, so your husband is a bad man. No, I think she was in a previous relationship and she's a survivor of DV, not him. I think in a previous relationship, she was in a volatile relationship and then she met her now, you know, her man now. Okay. So just saying that out loud. Okay. I don't think she would say out loud, I'm a victim of DV by this guy right here live on camera like that. You know what I mean? She had a history or a past in a past relationship that she left, just so you know. But let's continue.
Can either of you explain, we played a portion of that call, what that conversation was like?
That conversation at the time was honestly, our friend was telling us about the worst night of his life, and he's tired. I imagine he hasn't slept. I imagine that he's feeling guilty.
What? Oh, sorry about that.
Slept. I imagine that he's feeling guilt, horror, everything that you could imagine if you lost your wife. We recorded that conversation because we were going to sit here with charts and we were going to help him. At the end of the recording, we talked about starting a WhatsApp group, getting a hold of local boaters, putting a pin up on NFL, doing the things we can to get everybody involved. We understand that as Americans, when we go over to Bahamas and we leave this pile of poo on their deck, they don't have all the resources, but we could get the community involved. He knows about community outreach. He knows about the power of the people. That's been his message since I've met him. Every Facebook post he's put out is along those messages. And it's the one thing he's refused to do is get the community involved.
He talked about boaters that were after the fact that came to his boat and said, hey, what can we do to help? And he's like, oh, well, there's really nothing to do. And that's not helpful. That's not getting the word out there. I mean, obviously those people came to him and wanted to help. And there's been no action on any of that on his part.
Well, listen, Blaine and Marty, I appreciate.
Yeah, again, like I said, there's some very strange dealings going on with this guy. I'm sorry. I hate to say it like that, but there's some strange dealings going on here that just don't make any earthly sense in my personal opinion. There are too many red flags throughout the entire thing. And here's the thing. Let me just make this abundantly clear. He could literally be 110% innocent. That literally they were on a boat, big gust of wind or something, bounced her literally off the boat, and she was quickly taken under or taken away and was, and drifted further and further away from him. But one thing I do find very strange is the fact that he did not try to jump in after her. There's no, from what I've heard so far, there hasn't been any stories of him jumping in after her. I find that a little bit weird. I also find it weird that he has not given much information as far as details about what she was last seen wearing. I mean, just important pieces of information I think that would be incredibly pertinent in this juncture of this case, at this juncture of this whole fiasco. All he would have to do is say, yeah, she was last seen wearing this, last seen wearing that. She was wearing these glasses. She was wearing that. None of those things are being said from what we've gathered. Even his friends, or at least former friends now, are saying, yo, he is looking sus as hell. And all these red flags keep flying. And sure, maybe his mama is sick. And I understand. If she's gravely ill and you need to be there, there's certain things he could have done before he took off. Because for a fact, everybody's watching him. Everybody's watching him. He is under a very, 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 very tight microscope where everybody and their mom is watching. And like I said, he could very well be innocent. He could very well be 110% innocent. But the way he's acting and the movements are telling a lot of people otherwise. But what say you guys? What do you think? Do you think he's innocent? Do you think he's do you think he's completely innocent in this situation or not? To me, this is screaming sums up. Some doesn't feel right in my personal opinion. I'm gonna be real. Something does not feel right with this situation, but the truth will come out hopefully very, very soon. And hopefully Lynette is found. We'll find out. But guys, that is the show. I appreciate all y'all for being here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It really means a lot. Please do me a solid before we get going. Like I said, today was going to be today's afternoon show. It's going to be a little shorter than usual, but it's necessary. A lot of things going on. A lot of bad men doing bad things or being alleged of doing bad things. This is just insane. Okay, but I gotta get going. But please do me a favor before you head out. Hit that like button down below. Crush it, do it a do. Hit that reaction button if you're watching on these other platforms. If you are watching on these other platforms like Facebook, X/Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, make sure you follow those platforms. Follow. Subscribe here on my YouTube channel. Subscribe. Please and thank you. Hit that notification bell. Set it to all so you know whenever I go live, whenever I upload, because honestly, it is random. Also, go check out my second page, The Pascal Show Clips. Subscribe over there as well. That would be greatly appreciated. Okay, clips from these shows, these live shows are going over there so you can see them in smaller bits, just in case you want to rerun or maybe you missed a segment or something like that. You can watch it right over there. So go over The Pascal Show Clips, The Pascal Show Clips. Subscribe over there as well. Hit that notification as well, okay? Hit that join button down below on this channel. Become a member. Support the channel if you can. That'd be greatly appreciated as well. Check out my Patreon if you want to support even further. And of course, check out PascalMerch.com. Anyway, guys, it is time to get going. Much love to you guys, and we'll be talking very, very soon. If there's some breaking news, I might be back on sooner than you know. But we're keeping an eye on all the craziness that's going on in the world. Anyway, it's time to get going. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another. This is The Pascal Show.